Alright class, in this short video, we're going to learn about the group of people known as Sherpas. Alright, but before we can learn about the Sherpas, let's learn about who successfully climbed Mount Everest for the first time. Alright, for many years people have tried to climb Mount Everest and failed. And this was due to a variety of different things. One, altitude sickness. People that back then really didn't know the dangers of altitude sickness, exposure to the cold weather and the wind and the sun. People didn't know how to prepare for a journey up Mount Everest. However, after many attempts, the first successful climb happened on May 29th, 1953. This happened a little over 65 years ago. So, in terms of history, the first person to successfully climb Mount Everest has been fairly modern. And obviously here we have some pictures of people making that climb. Alright. The first people to successfully climb Mount Everest were New Zealander Sir Edmund Hillary and his Sherpa guide Tenzing Norgay. So here are two pictures. Here are two pictures of these two individuals. The one on the left is Sir Edmund Hillary. One on the right, on this picture, is Tenzing Norgay, the Sherpa. And then looking at this one, Sir Edmund Hillary, and then Tenzing Norgay. Now, this historic moment would not have been possible without the help of the Sherpa people of the Himalayas. And it is actually thanks to these native individuals of the Himalayas that even making the climb to Mount Everest is even possible. If it was not for them, the climb up Mount Everest would be almost impossible without them. Alright, so we've talked about in one of our vocabulary words about how the Sherpa are the people that inhabit the Himalayan mountains. These are individuals that have been here for centuries, hundreds of years that have lived here. And due to them living in the harsh conditions of the Himalayas, they are well suited to lead expeditions up Mount Everest. So here you have a Sherpa guide. Now in rare cases they do wear oxygen just to make sure that they're performing their job at their absolute best. Alright, now Sherpas, when we've talked about them, we've talked about them being your guides. However, they do most of the hard work so that the person who hired them can focus on making it to the top safely. So, not only do Sherpas act as guides, they also have other jobs as well. So, Sherpas also act as cooks. They kind of cook your meals up there, depending on how much you want to pay for them. They act as your guides. They'll go before you, scout out the trails that you're going to hike for that day, and kind of lead you up and down safely up the mountain. Porters, which basically means that they carry their camp supplies. So they're the ones that are carrying your tents, your stoves, your oxygen tanks, all your extra gear that you can't carry in one backpack. They're the ones that are doing the heavy lifting. And that's because A, you're paying for them, and two, their bodies are much more used to it, so they can continue making the climb with a bunch of weight on their back. And last but not least, and hopefully people never get to use them in this case, in this way, but they also help with injuries. They can determine if you can make it up the top, or they'll determine if it's better just to turn back and call it a day. I mean, so they're almost like your doctors going up the mountain. Here's another image of some Sherpa team just kind of lounging, hanging out by a campfire. And here's just another one overlooking a campsite, just kind of looking off into the horizon. So these Sherpas have very important jobs. Now, this is a very dangerous profession, a very dangerous job. The life of a Sherpa guide is not easy. It can be a very dangerous job where if mistakes are made while climbing, lives can be lost. It's one of those common risks that Sherpa guides know that it's a very dangerous job, but I mean, it's something that they're willing to do. Another, I guess, downside of this job is that they also spend a lot of time away from their families, especially since you're typically going to be gone about 2 or 3 months per trip. Keep in mind, climbing Mount Everest is a 2 or 3 month ordeal. So the Sherpa guides tend to usually be young men because they're not married or they don't have children. But being away, obviously, for 2 or 3 months can obviously be very, very difficult for some family members. Alright, now, another reason why, or one major reason why Sherpa men and women tend to become Sherpa guides, even though the job is dangerous, is because of the pay. The pay is very good for a Sherpa who leads expeditions. The average Sherpa is expected to make about $6,000 for 2 months of work. That's quite a bit of money. For 2 months of work, that you get about $6,000. Now that's on average, so that means some can obviously charge more, and then some are obviously going to charge less. Now in Nepal, $6,000 for 2 months of work is a lot of money. That is a lot of money in Nepal. I mean, we're talking, you're living a much, much wealthier lifestyle in that case. So, especially in Nepal, where the average Nepali can make about $500 a month. So, you can kind of start to see why $6,000 in 2 months is more appealing than $500 for 1 month. So that's why being a Sherpa guide appeals to both men and women. Alright, now, as Nepal has modernized, many women have also begun to lead expeditions. That's something that is relatively new. However, they have dealt with discrimination, as some older male Sherpas aren't happy with that because they do not feel a woman should be doing those things. Unfortunately, some of the older Sherpa generation believe that a woman, her place should be at home, cooking and raising a family. However, in this case, these women want to strive for more than that and want to push their boundaries, be pioneers, and they have demonstrated that they are more than capable of leading groups just as men. Now, a couple things before we finish this video are what makes the Sherpa so well adapted to climbing Mount Everest. So because Sherpas have lived on Mount Everest for centuries, their bodies have genetically adapted, or they've changed over time. Just to kind of give an idea how this helps them, in many cases, these individuals are capable of climbing to the top of Mount Everest without the need of an oxygen tank. However, there are some that still use it to make sure that they do their job to the best of their abilities. I mean, they're not superhuman by any means, but they will use oxygen when needed. Alright, one last thing with this is the Sherpas, because they've been born here in the Himalayas, their bodies have changed. One thing that Sherpas have, they've developed larger lungs. So when they take a breath, their bodies can take more oxygen in. Their bodies use oxygen more efficiently. So their bodies have a way of using that oxygen, what little oxygen they have, and making the most out of it. And they don't tire as easily. So for us, anytime, because we're at sea level, if we were to go up in elevation, we would be very tired just simply walking up and down this flight of stairs. If a Sherpa were to climb a set of stairs, for him, he would be breathing normally, and it would be no big deal. So those are a few advantages that Sherpas have. Now, later on, and the following day, we will be talking a little bit more in detail about these Sherpas and why they're so important. Just like always, make sure you complete the answer answer the following questions and watch the short review video on altitude sickness. Thanks. If you have any questions, let me know.